It has all come down to this. This Sunday on the 12th, the Super Bowl will occur between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. And with so much going into this, so much information to break down, that's exactly what I'm going to do for you. Go through everything you need to know and who you should be rooting for this week. So if you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. It truly means the world to me. But let's not waste any more of your time. Let's go and get right into things. As mentioned, on the 12th, we will see the Kansas City Chiefs of the AFC taking on the Philadelphia Eagles of the NFC. And with everything that's happened this year, all of this going in, I think that, with the Super Bowl being the biggest game of the year, of course, we need to get a little bit more in depth. So we're going to be covering the storylines, the stats for both teams, and kind of breaking it down so you can decide who you want to root for, as well as who I will personally be rooting for and who I think will be winning. But first, let's go ahead and start with the storylines, because there are a lot of them, and I'm not going to be able to cover all of them, but there is so much going into it. So first, we have two teams that are kind of in very different situations. For the Kansas City Chiefs, you have a team that potentially is trying to build a dynasty. Now, they've only won one Super Bowl, and this would be the second, and certainly 2 Super Bowls is not a dynasty, but just starting to build on it. I mean, this would put Andy Reid at 2 Super Bowls won with the Kansas City Chiefs. He'd be 2-2 in the Super Bowl, and he would be launched into that, greatest coach of all time category, as well as Patrick Mahomes. This would put him at his second, and would be a great start for a Kansas City Chiefs team that has this roster pretty much put together and a lot still going for them. On the other side of things, the Eagles are a very young team, a team that a lot of people didn't expect to, make it this far in general in the regular season or in the playoffs and to be this good, and yet they were able to do it nonetheless. But not only do you have two teams in dramatically diverse positions that still found a way to make it Super Bowl, there's still a lot of other things going into this. You have the Kelce Bowl, of course, Travis Kelce against Jason Kelce. The first time 2 brothers are playing each other as starters in the Super Bowl. A lot of things going to that. Funny story, a lot of the fans are petitioning for Kelce's mother. I'm not sure what her exact name is. I do have it somewhere in here if I'm able to find it. Donna Kelce. A lot of people petition to have her be flipping the coin at the start of the game. Kind of fun to think about. So you have the Kelce Bowl. You also have Andy Reid going against his former team. He was the Eagles head coach for like 12 years. And actually, the first ever game that he was the head coach of was in Arizona, where the Super Bowl will be held. Another storyline going along with that. You also have the first ever Super Bowl with 2 starting black quarterbacks, of course, Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. And there's so many things going into this, so many storylines, and I'm not even able to cover all of them, but those are a lot of the big ones that are going into this. Oh, lastly, Mahomes, if he were to win the Super Bowl, would be the only quarterback and one of only 13 ever that has 2 Super Bowls. He'd be the only current quarterback with 2 Super Bowls. That's kind of the last and final big storyline that I have to cover here. But storylines are a lot of fun, but you're not watching the game for storylines. Although it's part of it, you're watching the game to see the game progress, see who wins and all that. And stats are a big part of kind of deciding who you think is going to win and predicting who's going to win. So let's move on to the stats. We're going to start with the Kansas City Chiefs first. Jump ahead. Messed up my PowerPoint there. Kansas City Chiefs first, team that we're going to be covering here. And like I said, we're going to be going through offense, defense, and all the in-between. First things first, the Kansas City Chiefs had the number 1 total offense referring to the amount of yards that they're getting. Number 1 in the entire league. They're also first in points per game. They had an incredible offense, and a lot of that did come through the past game where they were first in passing yards as well as first in passing touchdowns. Now, although they had that great passing attack, it wasn't just passing that they were great at. Their run game definitely supported them a lot, maybe not to the level that you'd hope to see, but they were still, 20th in rushing yards, which isn't great, below average, but they were 8th in rushing touchdowns. They got a good share of rushing touchdowns along with their passing, which put them in first in total touchdowns. Very, very good numbers. Their offense is definitely loaded and puts them in very good position, but defensively, they had the 11th total defense, still above average, not amazing, but just outside of the top 10 is a really, really good stat. And the fact that you have number 1 offense and almost a top 10 defense says a lot about you. You also had 16th in points per game allowed against you. right at average, pretty decent number there. You also have 19th in passing yards against, 32nd in passing touchdowns against, though. So you are the worst in the league at allowing the most passing touchdowns against. With Jalen Hurts on the other side, who was the MVP candidate alongside the winner in Patrick Mahomes, that could become a problem. 32nd in passing touchdowns allowed, 8th in rushing yards against, and 7th in rushing touchdowns against, with the Eagles, of course, having a pretty decent run game. I think, the fact that the Chiefs are a little bit better in that category might be enough to force, some things more into the passing game. And lastly, they were 23rd in turnover differential. So they were actually, had a lot more turnovers than they were able to commit. And that could be something that is important here. For the Chiefs, I think we'll do 3 highlights for each team. 3 things to really watch for. First, the offensive line. Now, they do have a very good offensive line, but the Eagles' pass rush and even run game is exceptionally good. I mean, their pass rush is amazing, and it could be a pivotal performance on how good the Chiefs' offensive line is able to do, especially with, Patrick Mahomes still dealing with his ankle injury. If he's not given time in the pocket, this could dramatically change how this game plays out. And, look back at the Buccaneers Super Bowl a couple years back. He was forced on the pocket time after time, didn't have time, and that led to them losing the game. Another key part here is their wide receiver room. Pretty beat up. I think they lost Juju Smith-Schuster, Scantling as well. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to play this week, but those are some 2 important players. And lastly, of course, Travis Kelce. I think he's going to be a huge factor in how this game goes. No matter who wins, I think he's probably going to end up with a touchdown or 2. Those are the 3 key points as well as the stats for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, next up, we're going to have the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, on the other side from the NFC, same thing applies here. Offense, defense, and all the in-between. They have the 3rd total offense, of course, going up against the Chiefs, who have the 1st. Being 3rd is, a very, very good position for you to be in. Means that you could potentially keep up with the shootout if things were to transpire that way. You also had 3rd in points per game, once again, just slightly behind the Chiefs. You had 8th in passing yards, 7th in passing touchdowns, while being 5th in rushing yards and 1st in rushing touchdowns. So for the Eagles, they have a little bit, more of a equal offense. You can get a lot of yards and touchdowns rushing as well as passing, and that's a good thing for them. That means if one thing's not working, they can lean in on the other a little bit more, and that could, be something really, really good for them, and could work in a good favor for them. But not only that, they're 2nd in total touchdowns, which, another great way to keep up with this Chiefs' amazing offense. On the other side of things, though, defensively, they were, the 2nd best defense in the entire league. They had the 8th best points per game against. So a stellar defense along with a stellar offense. I mean, you're 3rd and 2nd. That's amazing. Of course, the Chiefs being 1st and 11th, not too far off, but it's definitely a big jump up for the Eagles to have such a good defense entering this. They have 1st in passing touchdowns against, 1st in passing yards against, 12th in passing touchdowns against. So they're doing really good against the passing attack. Of course, Patrick Mahomes on the other side, likely not going to be held back as much as we may all expect. He's going to find a way to get his yards. But still something really important to look at, that the Eagles are limiting yards and also limiting touchdowns through the air as well. They are also the 16th in rushing yards against and 18th in rushing touchdowns against. So their run game defensively is not as great as their passing game, but that's kind of leaning into what the Chiefs are good at. They're better in the pass game than the rush game. And finally, they are 3rd in turnover differential. Their defense does great at forcing turnovers, which is going to make it a lot easier for you to win games in the long run. Now, with all that being said, we all know stats aren't everything, and that's a really important factor here to kind of look into things, to prepare for how things are going to play out. You can't only look at the stats. You also got to analyze how things are played. Now, I will say both these teams are phenomenal teams, and they earned their spot here. But, these 2 teams went down very different, forms of the season. The Eagles, a lot of people say, had one of the easiest records or easiest schedules in the league. I think the Chiefs honestly also had a little bit easier of a schedule. They did have some tougher teams than the Eagles, but certainly their schedule wasn't as packed as we've seen them have in previous years. Now, not only that, but you also look at the fight to this playoff spot in the current moment. The Eagles, maybe a little bit of an easier road. Of course, 49ers didn't have their starting quarterback or quarterbacks, and the Chiefs won against the Bengals, but they also won against the Jaguars. These teams, very different paths, but I think they both have a great shot at winning this, and it really could come down to the very, very end. I could see either one of these teams winning. Now, if you're not able to come up with your own choice of who you think will win based on those, let me break it down a little bit further and look at it in a little bit different of a way. Now, the funny thing is, who I think is going to win and who I'm hoping to win are actually different. So first, let me break down who I'm hoping is going to win and why. I hope the Eagles win. Now, for multiple reasons. For one, I really want more diversity in the league. I want teams to not consistently win. I'd rather have brand new teams in the Super Bowl every single year, and it just make the NFL so much more competitive. Having new teams in the Super Bowl that earned their spot and winning it over previous teams, showing that not one team is dominant over the entire league, I think is good for the NFL. I think that's a great thing for the Shield to have some great diversity among teams, going up and down, different teams winning at different times. I think that's something very, very good. But not only that, but the Eagles really kind of lean into a very balanced team. I mean, you're second and third. That is amazing on offense and defense. You have so many great players. It seems like every single position has great options. Their offensive line is, I think, the best in the league, allowed like one of the least sacks in the entire league. You have young guys, young quarterback, Jalen Hurts. You have, a great rusher in Miles Sanders, I think landed at 5th. You go make some big acquisitions with A.J. Brown this past year at in the draft through a trade. And you have some great guys on the defense. And honestly, I think the Eagles, their fans, not so much, but I think the Eagles as a team is a little bit more likable than the Chiefs. Their fans, maybe not so much, because they just get a little bit rowdy at times, but the Chiefs also kind of fall in that category. And I think the Eagles have enough. Now, I want them to win, and, I just don't know if they will. So, I think they certainly could, but I feel the Chiefs are going to win this. No matter if I want them to or not, there's something inside saying that the Chiefs are going to win this, so let me explain exactly why I believe that. Not only do they have the experience, they've been in this position more. They've been to the Super Bowl 3 of the past 4 years. They've been to the conference championship all 4 of those years. Every time Mahomes has been the starting quarterback, they've made the conference championship. They've had a great streak here. Andy Reid obviously has experience. This is his 4th Super Bowl that he's going to be coaching in. I think Andy Reid is by far the better coach out of these two teams. I think quarterback-wise, really, really close. Jalen Hurts versus Patrick Mahomes is very close, but Mahomes is definitely better. And although the Eagles have a great defense, there's just something about this Chiefs offense and the coaching with Andy Reid that just makes me believe that they're going to score. They're going to find a way to score no matter what they're going up against. Patrick Mahomes just has that ability. I think the only way to stop him is through the pass rush. And the Eagles have a stellar pass rush, which could be enough, but I think Mahomes is going to be able to find a way to get him the points. Whether that's through the air, on the ground with his legs, or with the run game, it doesn't matter. He'll find a way to make it work. And their defense is not that bad. I mean, they're 11th. Although the Eagles, from second best defense from Eagles to 11th for the Chiefs, is a big gap versus 1 to 3 Chiefs offense versus Eagles offense. Big gaps from defense versus this. It may seem like statistically Eagles definitely have a bigger hand up. I think there's something to say about experience. I think there's something to say about coaching. And I just feel, and I know you're not, when you're talking about all these things, you're not supposed to be talking about feelings and all this. But the Super Bowl, it's going to come down to who has the bigger superstars. I think that is the most important because the superstars are going to win. Yes, a properly formed team is going to make a huge difference, but who's going to be clutch? Who's going to be great under the bright lights? And I think the Chiefs have that upper hand. And there's just something about them that screams that they're going to end up winning this game. Now, with all that being said, make your predictions. Choose the team that you want. Obviously, I'm split. I feel like the Chiefs are going to win, but I hope the Eagles win. Now, go whichever way you want. Take everything I've said with a grain of salt and make your own decision. But with all that being said, who do you think's going to win? Who do you think will be the MVP of the Super Bowl this year? And who will be the most important, whether they actually win the MVP or not? Because we know it's oftentimes given to the quarterback. And, what do you think the score is going to be? I'm not here to make a prediction. I don't like making score predictions. And I think this could be a shootout or a low-scoring affair. I think it could be a blowout, or I think it could be really close. There's so many ways that this could go, and I like that. I enjoy not being able to assume what the score is going to be. What do you guys think? Comment all that down below. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. It truly means the world to me. And as always, I hope it's awesome today. Hope you made smile. Hope you laugh. Something really important to me. Affects smiles today in a great way, because every single day can be a great day if you all just put in the effort. And as always, you guys all be safe out there.